Good evening, Professor Smith. My name is Phil Persing. I'm here checking in our Assignment 9 project. We've been asked to do a video on gender in fire and emergency services. So here we go. To start off with, just to give a brief overview of gender in the U.S., history of gender in the U.S. Fire Service. Here in the United States, the fire service has generally been a male-dominated field with a culture and a way of doing things that has kind of been established through those gender norms. Female firefighters face challenges systemically related to recruitment, retention, advancing in their careers, and just a general workplace culture. Why is it important to address gender within the fire service? Well, there's a few reasons why. So research has actually shown that diverse teams can help improve problem solving, innovation, and community engagement. Gender inclusivity can also enhance departments' effectiveness, safety, and overall morale. So some of the things that I want to explore with this, some of the questions that I'm thinking of are, well, how is the fire service inherently gendered in its practices? There's an obvious answer to that, but I really wanted to kind of really look into it. So what are some of the barriers to recruitment, promotion, and then retention of firefighters? We all know retention is one of the hardest things within our industry. And what is the current gender representation in U.S. fire departments today? What are we looking at numbers-wise? And what are some strategies that we can implement to maybe close the gender gap? What are some things that we can do to fix this if it's broken? So the fire service is a gendered organization. If we just define that, it's kind of how that organizations can help diversify. There's things that they can do. They can use structures within the organization. They can set expectations. They can set goals and even policies that are, if they're implemented, then they can make change. Fire departments specifically, with their command structure and even our traditional physical standards, really exemplify a gendered institution, if you really want to define it. So what are some of the expectations of gender expectations and leadership styles? Well, leadership roles within the fire service have historically been aligned with very masculine traits. Think of like somebody who's very tough, or somebody who's decisive, or somebody who's very physically strong. As firefighters, these are the type of leaders that we generally look up to, and that is the way that it has always been, at least in my career. Women that are leaders within the fire service, they may face some resistance when their leadership style is actually going to be different than what most firefighters are used to. And we all know firefighters don't love change. So how about recruiting, promotion, and then a career advancement biases? Well, traditional recruitment materials, historically will depict firefighting as a physically demanding masculine profession, as we already talked about. And firefighter entrance exams and training standards may include gender biases without even realizing it sometimes, failing to account for the physiological differences without compromising operational effectiveness. So, you think about an example like if you had a hiring test where you had to incorporate a hose pull. Is it fair for women? This is a fine line. This is a challenge because as a department, you don't want to lower your standard. There's a standard set. We need to be able to drag a hose line into a burning building and put a fire out. But is it really realistic? Is it really fair to what the standard maybe should be? And that's not an easy answer, to be honest. So workplace policies and structural barriers. Well, so many fire departments lack policies supporting a work-life balance for women. They are, again, very male-oriented. So think about pregnancy, maternity leave, even just general family care. They're not set up for that, not normally. And then you think about structural barriers. What about the fire station itself? I know in my own department, many of the fire stations were built well over 30 years ago. So think of bunk rooms, bathrooms. I can tell you that at least where I work, we are making strides to make like individual bunk rooms and female friendly bathrooms. We're doing things to change, but many places it's not. I mean, there might be a shower with 6 shower heads in it. That's not exactly female inclusive, right? So those situations are not accommodating a diverse workforce, and this can honestly alienate female firefighters, again affecting the thing I talked about, retention. So how is our current gender representation in the United States Fire Service? A statistical overview, I'll just hit some numbers. So women comprise only about 4% of career firefighters in the US, and female representation in leadership position remains even lower, with them holding less than 3% of fire chief roles. That's a staggering statistic. So what are some challenges faced by women firefighters? Well, there's a few. To start with, how about workplace culture and harassment? Well, women firefighters report higher rates of harassment, discrimination, and exclusionary behavior within the profession. Work-life balance and structural inequities. So fire departments will often have rigid scheduling that conflicts with caregiving responsibilities. Think of a mother and like maybe a mother that's breastfeeding. And this really disproportionately does affect women over men. There's limited career advancement opportunities. And I think that really depends where you work, but mentorship and sponsorship for women in the fire service in general are lacking, and these numbers are from the International Association of Fire Chiefs. So we're looking at real hard data here. So how about some strategies to address this? What can be done? What can be done, if anything? So recruiting and retention, right? Very important. So a fire department could implement a gender inclusive recruitment campaign showing a diverse range of firefighters. And you're seeing that more now. You're seeing it's not the stereotypical white male, which I know it still is a more large portion of the fire service, but they are showing everybody that can do it. There's another option of outreach programs that specifically target young women in schools and colleges, and this can create a change for future firefighters. How about culture and policy change? So when we're talking about addressing workplace harassment, departments really need to enforce a zero tolerance policy on harassment and conduct regular training on this. This feels like something we have been doing for a long time, but again, I can't speak for all departments. Flexible work policies. So implementing flexible scheduling, parental leave policies, and return to work programs post-maternity. At least here in the state of Florida, I know we do have, the entire nation, we have FMLA, and we take that very seriously at my department. But this is a challenge because our schedule is not flexible. We are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's not really acceptable to put a unit out of service to go home to do something. So these are the challenges, and I don't know that there's a perfect answer, but flexible scheduling, maybe if there's different options, you never know, maybe that would help. And then updating equipment and facilities. So this is one that we can definitely do, and I think that it does. I believe that it does make a big difference, and it's ensuring that the firefighters actually have properly fitting gear, which you would think that would go without saying, but you can't just expect, if I'm 6'2", 250 pounds, I can't expect a female that gets hired a couple years after me to take my old set and say, oh, just make it work. No, we need to have it fitted properly. And then the other thing is to modify our fire stations to accommodate a diverse workforce. This isn't a challenge. We're just, it really comes down to dollars and cents. It costs money to rebuild stations. It costs money to build new stations. And it costs money to do any of these things. But there are little things that we can do. Even if we're just talking about putting up sheets and creating private areas. Maybe if you have, maybe you don't have specific bathrooms for females, but you could maybe make one of them, hey, say this bathroom today is only for her. Or at minimum put locks on the doors so when she goes in there she can use it. There's things that you can do that are low cost that you can make changes and really help them feel more welcome. So another thing is leadership development and representation of the gender in our leadership. So going back to establishing mentorship programs, sponsorship programs, and just to help them, to help to support career progression. Encourage leadership training programs tailored for women in the fire service. That's also a great thing too. So in conclusion, to recap on a couple things, is that the fire service is improving, but it is still a significantly male-dominated industry by a very wide margin. Addressing gender disparities, we can enhance our operational effectiveness, safety, and overall workplace culture. So what can we do? What is my call? What is my call to action? I would say that fire service leaders must commit to fostering an inclusive culture by implementing policy change, supporting mentorship programs, and ensuring equitable opportunities for all firefighters, regardless of race or gender. However, this must not come at the cost of lowering standards. So while I wish I had all the answers, I certainly do not. But there are things that we can do to make improvements and make this better. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great night.